rahmah. The Prophet ﷺ said that's the mercy of the heart. That is mercy, right? Remember when his own son died and the Prophet ﷺ was crying and they said, how could you be crying? He said, it's rahmah. This is the compassion that Allah puts in our hearts for one another. And so the words of Ali when Fatima died, pure pain. Unfiltered, raw pain. There's nothing else that's given except for pain. It's a very strong poem. He had finished burying her. He stood by her graveside and he recited the following. He said, Mali waqaftu ala al-quburi musalliman. He said, what is wrong with me standing at the graveside saying salam to the one who has passed? Qabr al-habibi falam yarudda jawabi. The grave of my lover, but she's not responding to my greeting. And he calls out and he says, Ahabibu ma laka la taruddu jawabana. My lover, why are you not responding to my salam? Anasita ba'di khullat al-ahbabi. Have you forgotten all of the intimate He said, have you forgotten all of the intimate moments that were shared between the two of us? And then he actually says in this poem, he starts to respond with what Fatima would be saying back to him. And he says, قَالَ الْحَبِيبُ وَكَيْفَ لِي بِجَوَابِكُمْ. My beloved one responded and said, how can I respond to you? وَأَنَا رَهِينُ جَنَادِلٍ وَتُرَابِ. And I've become a prisoner, I've become now consumed by stones and by dirt. And he cried, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And he responded, again, he's still speaking. He says, أَكَلَ التُّرَابُ مَحَاسَنِي فَنَسِيتُكُمْ. The dirt has consumed my beauty, and that is why I have moved on. وَحُجِبْتُ عَنْ أَهْلِي وَعَنْ أَتْرَابِي. And I've been veiled from my family and my beloved ones. فَعَلَيْكُمُ مِنِّ السَّلَامِ تَقَطَّعَتْ مِنِّي وَمِنْكُمْ خُلَّةَ الْأَحْبَابِ. And so he said, and so she responded and she said, and so my salam back to you and to them, meaning to those that I've left behind. Those intimate moments have now passed. These are painful words. They are raw expressions of death. There is nothing about them that is, we'll meet again in Jannah, nothing about them that I'm okay. It's pure pain, and that is actually an expression of that love, that deep love that Ali radiallahu anhu had for Fatima radiallahu anha. Now, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu did not go back on his faith. He didn't become, resentful to Allah. He knows the way that this works. He knows the process of death and afterlife. But that doesn't mean that he didn't feel pain. And I think that's actually something that's very important. When we lose our loved ones, we're not expected to not feel pain. Okay? That's not what sabr is. Sabr is not, patience is not to not feel pain and not feel love and not feel that distance when you lose your loved ones. Patience is to not say anything, لا نقول إلا ما يرضي الله, not to say anything except that which is pleasing to Allah, and to use that pain to do good for them. Right? Like the Prophet ﷺ did with Khadija radiallahu anha, visiting her friends, spending on her behalf, maintaining those relationships. That's what it is. And I think it's only befitting that you go through that and you just see it's just love and pain. And Ali is actually, radiallahu anhu, imagining a conversation between him and Fatima at that point. And that's the deep love that he had for her, radiallahu ta'ala anha. Of course, what we know, what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned of the gathering of the souls of the believers, we have no doubt, being that they're both from those promised al-Jannah, that al-Hasan wal-Hussein are Sayyida Shabab Ahl al-Jannah, the masters of the youth of the people of paradise, that they are gathered again in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ in arwah al-mu'mineen, in the realm of the righteous souls. We ask Allah to gather us with them and to allow us to be like them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put that love and that mercy in our hearts, and to put that rida with Allah, that pleasure with Allah's decree in our hearts, and to unite us with our families, and to unite us with this blessed family in the highest level of Jannatul Firdaus. Allahumma ameen. And again, this was a deep dive into life, that family of the Prophet ﷺ. And I hope that, inshallah ta'ala, it gives you a lot of perspective for how we carry ourselves. How, Kobe Bryant died 2 days ago, and there's a lot of this, a lot of people talking about death now, right? And this should give us some perspective. This should give us a lot of perspective, right? When people talk about death, how do we want to go, and who do we want to be with? Anta ma'man ahbabt. You are with the one that you love. So I pray that if Allah look at us and find us to be amongst those who deeply love the Prophet ﷺ and his family, that is a sign, bidnillah, that Allah would gather us with him and his family as companions. Allahumma ameen.